Hey guys, welcome back to PK on Tech. In this video, we are going to be looking at the date dimension in Power BI, how to create it, what is the use of it, and how easy it is to quickly get a date dimension done. A date dimension is an extremely useful tool when you are doing calculations around dates. And for example, you might be showing sales over a certain period, sales over changes in sales over months or over quarters or over years. And you might have needs where the fiscal year is different from the calendar here. In many cases, in many countries, the fiscal year is different, and it could be a July or a April as the first month of the fiscal year. So how do we take care of that in Power BI? So let's take a look. It's extremely useful and extremely important. So let's get cracking. There are a few ways in which you can create a date dim table. The One of the common ways would be to load from, you will have an existing date dimension table in your underlying data warehouse. Your database developers or the database team would have created one, and you simply point to that and load it. That's pretty convenient. And it's one of the common ways where BI reporting teams leverage the existing date dimension table. In some cases, that may not be an option for various reasons. The database team is busy; they don't have the bandwidth, or there are no skills. There could be scenarios where you do not want to wait for the database team and rather handle it directly in your BI tool, in this case, the Power BI. So in that case, you could create an Excel file which has the same information, something like what I'm showing here, where you have a list of dates starting from one given date, um, ending in some other date, and the attributes around that. So you can create an Excel file and load that. Or the third option is to come in and create directly in Power BI, which is what we are going to take a look. Right. And in your typical date dimension table, you have dates going back in time, and that depends on the type of the dashboards reports you want to build. There most likely the requirements are going to drive how far back you want to see your sales or your metrics. And the same goes for how far along, how far forward looking your date dimension should be. If you are dealing with financial instruments, there are things around time series which may go back years, 30 years, 15 years, even 50 years. So that the requirements will drive how many rows you would have in your date dimension table. So in this, let's take a look at how we build directly in Power BI. So I'm going to go to the queries tab. I already have some queries which have been pre-created, which as you can see here, date being one of them. But I'm going to create a completely brand new date dem. So, and for that, the starting source would be a blank query for me. And when you do it, you get a blank canvas like this with the cursor in your formula bar. And there are some simple steps that we need to do. Let's take a look at how we do that. The formula that we want to use is quite straightforward. What we want to do is return a list of dates. And in mQuery, there is a list dot dates. And if you look at the help on this function, it says generate a list of date values given an initial value count and incremental duration value. So the initial value is our starting date, how many days we want, and the step, which is in our case, it's going to be 1 day at a time. So the step duration would be one. So I can type in here in mQuery, and I can do it right inline, or I could create some parameters, those three parameters. So let's go with the creation of the new parameters, and we'll come back to this. So the first thing I want to do is a start date parameter, and that would be a number. Sorry, that would be a date. And my starting date that I want is 1st Jan 2010. That's one done. And then I'm going to say the number of years, and that would be a number. And let's say we want 50 years. And finally, the duration, which is going to be 1 day, and that would be a duration. Type will be a duration, and I want to say it is 1. So given we have the start date, number of years, and duration, those 3 parameters, I can go back to this, and in my list.dates, I can start passing those, and you'll start seeing that here Power BI will recognize those parameters that we have created. That's the start date, number of years. Number of years, we want the count. So number of years times the number of days in those years. So I'm going to go with 366, considering there will be some leap years. So I'm going to go with the more dates. It really doesn't matter, but I want to make sure we are covering for this leap year scenario, and the duration. And there you have it. And now when I hit enter, I get the list of the dates. That's pretty much it. So we have a list of dates now that this mQuery is returning. I'm going to convert it to a table here. Just go with the default option. So I have a table with the list of the dates. Let's change the data type to a date type. So I have a table with a list of dates, and this is going to be my new date dimension. So I'm going to rename this to date dim, and let's rename this field to a date. And there we have our date dim table. Now we want some additional attributes that go along with the date. And to do that, all we need to do is come here in the add column option on the ribbon. And there are some convenience functions. So if you pop over to the from date and time group, you can see there are out of the box day, week, quarter, month, and year attributes. So I'm going to add a few of these. So I'll put in the day of the week. So that will be the day of the week. And then I'm going to do one more. I'll put in the day, obviously, and then the same week of the year. And then I'm going to go to the quarter of the year. And then I would need the month. And then finally the year. And here we have our datedim function, a datedim dimension or date dimension table pretty much done. And that's pretty much it, right? So we have a functional date dimension table. Next we need to do is take care of the fiscal attributes that we spoke about. So how do we do that? Let's take a look. A fiscal year, also known as a financial year, is a 1 year time period chosen by a company to report its financial information or accounting for accounting reasons. When does the year start and when does the year end? In almost typically, it's always the calendar here, starting from Jan 1st to December 31st. But in some cases, the fiscal year may not be the calendar year. It could be starting in April or in some cases July, depending on certain certain jurisdictions in some countries. The financial year starts, for example, in India, I believe the financial year starts in April, and in some other countries it starts in July, or some corporations may have, depending on where they are registered, they might have to report for a period starting in July and ending in June. So here is a simple Excel view. If the financial year starts in the month of July, the month 7, then if you look at it, so I've listed down the months going in from Jan 1, 2023 all the way till July of 2024. And the calendar year is obviously the year 2023, in December 23, and the next year, Jan 24, it start 24. And the quarter obviously follows that. So you have your Jan, Feb, March being quarter one, your Feb, March, April quarter two, and so on and so forth. However, the fiscal year changes is different. So in the case of July, the fiscal year of 2023 ends in June 2023, and in July of this year, 2023, the fiscal year 2024 starts. And it goes on all the way till June of 2024, and in July of 2024 the fiscal year 2025 starts. So the quarter in that case obviously changes. So right now in Jan of 2023 we are in Q3 of the fiscal year 2023. Come April it'll be quarter 4. April, May, June will be the last quarter of fiscal year 2023. And when July 2023, you get the first quarter of 2024, fiscal year 2024. Hopefully that's clear. And it is purely a reporting requirement, a finance reporting requirement in some cases, that you want to report your finances of starting with a uh, specific month, which is differs from the Jan. So let's take a look how we do this in Power BI now. Given the background of what a fiscal year quarter is, let's try out an example of how do we create the fiscal year and quarter for for a fiscal year starting in July. Let's start by adding a fiscal month and then we'll add the quarter and the year. To do that, I'm going to go into the add column tab here and create a custom column. The dialog for the custom column pops up. The name of the column is going to be fiscal month. And the formula is really straightforward. So the way to think about this is if the month is July 1st, then it is going to be the first month. So if it is 7, then the month is 7, then the fiscal month would be 1, so 7 minus 6. And if it is Jan, the fiscal month, the calendar month is 1, then the fiscal month would be 7, the seventh month. So I can say if month is greater than 6, then I'm going to deduct 6, else I'm going to add 6. So month plus 6. So if it is 1, it'll be 7. And if it is Feb, it'll be 8, the 8th month, all the way till June. So if it is June, then that'll be the 12th fiscal month, and July 7 minus 6 will be 1. So that checks out. Let's create it. That is our fiscal month. So as simple as that. Next, let's add a fiscal year, and then we'll come to the quarter. So the fiscal year will do something similar as we did for the month. I'm going to add in the add column option, I'm going to create a custom column here. The dialog pops up. The name of the column is going to be fiscal year. Similar to what we did for the month, if the month is greater than or equal to 7, so if it is July or higher, then I want to increment the calendar year by 1, else it'll be the same as the year. So what this means is till Jan to June, it'll be the same as the calendar year. However, in July, So as we saw with the Excel example, in the July of 2023, the fiscal year would be incremented by one, in this case 24. So let's hit OK, and the fiscal year gets created. So my date starts from Jan 1st, 2010. So the fiscal year will be 2010 as well till we go to July, and that it should change to 2011 here. So the first, yeah, and it does, right? So which is the first month of the fiscal year 2011, right? So that looks good. Now let's create the fiscal quarter. Okay, let's now add the fiscal quarter column. So to do that, let's come back to our add column menu item, click on the custom column icon there, and we'll give a name fiscal quarter. And what we want to do is here, I'm going to use the fiscal month and divide by 3. So 3 months in a quarter to get the quarter, and we'll round up. So we're going to say value divide, take the fiscal month. So divide the fiscal month by 3, and we want to round this up. And that's pretty much it. And this should give us our fiscal quarter. Yeah, so we know in case of Jan, which is our first date here, Jan 1st, 2010, it'll be the third quarter. And so July, August, September, October should be the fourth quarter. And it is, yeah, sorry, the Jan, Feb, March will be the third quarter. April, May, June will be the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter. Yes, so that's April 1st is the fourth quarter. And June, end of June is your fourth quarter ends. And July 1st is again the first quarter of the next fiscal year, which is 2011. So July 1st will be the first fiscal month of 2011 and Q quarter one. Now what we want to do is actually append the Q to this. So we can do it right here. We can say Q and concatenate with this number. I think it'll most likely throw an error, yeah, because we're trying to concatenate a text with a number. So if you click on the number, most likely that's going to say, yes, we cannot apply operator ampersand to types text and number. So let's fix that. So all we need to do is convert this to a text number dot number to text and put this in the parentheses. Oh, that did not work. Let's try that again. Number dot number to text. And that should do it. So Q3, Q4, and Q1 will be July 1st. So the seventh month of the calendar year, July, will be the first month of the fiscal year 2011, and that's a quarter one. That's so we have our complete date dim table now. So we have the original date, which is what we started off with, creating a list of dates. I use the add column option successively to add other parameters like day of week, day of the month, week of the year, things like that. And then finally, we use some basic mQuery functions to create a fiscal month, year, and quarter. So as you can see, it's quite straightforward to create a date dim table. In the next video, we are going to look at some time intelligence function and how this date dim table can be quite useful doing things like day on day, month on month, quarter on quarter, particularly when you have time based calculations. If we have visualizations that show um, date based calculations. So um, that will be in the coming video. Please share and subscribe. Please hit a like button. Thank you.